As said by famous French statesman Georges Clemenceau, war is much too serious a matter to be entrusted to the military. And even today, his statement still stands true. While most countries have large military forces that are able to deploy and protect at any given time, the largest and most notable being China at about 1.6 million army personnel, some countries have no military at all. In the video today, a list of 10 countries that have no set military forces, each of them with varying reasons why. Some because of the country's history and others because of its location. While many believe that a military force is a necessity, there are countries that see or have no need for them. In many cases, there is a backup plan if the country is attacked or war is declared upon that country. Number 10. Solomon Islands. The Solomon Islands are surprisingly not just a few islands, but are made up of thousands of islands. Ever since the UK became the country's protectorate in 1893, the country hasn't had much military defense. During World War II, the country did have the British Solomon Islands Protectorate Defense Force. Then, in 1976, the Solomon Islands were able to establish a government that was stable up until about 1998. During 1998 to 2006, the country was plagued with misconduct within the government, as well as crime and ethnic conflict. To probably resolve these issues, New Zealand and Australia both stepped in to restore peace and eventually disarm them. Today, the country internally has the Solomon Islands Police Force. So, who's the protector? There is no set protector of the Solomon Islands, however, the country has paid Australia for certain defense items. If a war were to ever be declared upon the islands, Australia would probably be one of the first countries to provide a defense. Number 9. Costa Rica. Though the country did once have an army, today Costa Rica stands as one of the many countries without a formal standing army. On December 1, 1948, José Figueres Ferrer, president at the time, signed legislation that would abolish the military after the fatal Costa Rican Civil War that killed almost 2,000 people. To properly represent this abolishment, the president himself was able to break a wall of the Hotel Bella Vista, which was once an army headquarters location. Today the country has the Fuerza Pública, which provides law enforcement, ground security, border patrol, and many other common duties held by a police force. So who's the protector? Thanks to the Inter-American Treaty of Reciprocal Assistance of 1947, if any country were to ever attack or declare war upon Costa Rica, the country can depend on 21 other countries, including the US, Chile, and Cuba, to provide some sort of military force to protect and defend it. The treaty stands that if any of the signed countries are attacked, then the other countries would be looked upon to provide some sort of military defense. Number 8. Samoa. Today, Samoa has no set military force that could be used if it was necessary. Instead, the country would have to rely on outside friendships with other countries to find protection and defense in wartime. The country does have a Samoan police force, but of course, this is definitely not considered to be a military force for the entire country. So who's the protector? Samoa has a friendship treaty with New Zealand made in 1962. In the event of a war or other foreign invasion, Samoa can call upon New Zealand for any sort of necessary military aid. However, the agreement does state that either country can pull out of the treaty at any time if they want it. Number 7. Palau. Despite the lack of a national military force, Palau does have a Palau National Police section that was created to provide the necessary protection for civilians. Like most police forces, the Palau National Police Force is needed to keep the peace and attend to any internal unrest that may occur. If war were to ever arise, Palau would have to reach out for help from other countries to provide some sort of defense system. So who's the protector? Standing as an associated state, Palau will be protected by the US in the event that the country is attacked or another country decides that war with Palau is just a must. This is because of the Compact of Free Association of 1983 that basically made the US the protector of Palau. Number 6. Andorra. Despite not ever having a true organized military, the tiny country of Andorra was bold enough to declare war on Germany in 1914 and join the so-called Great War. With a 10-man strong army, the country did not do much and was not taken seriously. Even though the country did officially pick sides, Andorra was not invited to the Versailles Peace Treaty negotiations. In 1931, the group of men roughly called an army was replaced by the Andorran National Police. This group, made up of about 240 men, was created to help keep the peace and is even trained to provide hostage rescue. Joining the police force is a must if you're a man who owns a firearm. So who's the protector? Andorra has not one, not two, but 3 protectors. France and Spain have both pledged to be the militaristic protectors of the 181 square mile country because of its location, which is landlocked. In fact, in 1933, France's militaristic force was needed to help settle civil unrest in the country. Besides these 2 countries, NATO forces would also take part in protecting this country if ever necessary. Number 5. Grenada. Ever since the American-led invasion of Grenada, the country has not been able to establish a standing army. The invasion was mostly started because of a military coup and a power struggle within the government that led to the execution of the Grenadian Prime Minister Maurice Bishop. Because of this invasion, which successfully turned a communist state back into a democratic nation, the country does not have a standing army, but relies on the Royal Grenada Police Force as well as the regional security system. So who's the protector? There is no set country to protect Grenada with military force. Because of the regional security system, the country can look to Antigua, Barbados, Dominica, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Lucia and St. Vincent and the Grenadines for some sort of military support. However, most of these countries do not have a big enough defense system to be of great assistance. It seems that inevitably the US would come to the rescue. Number 4. Marshall Islands. Under the Compact of Free Association of 1983, the Marshall Islands were granted the status of sovereign nation. Also involved in the pact is the Federated States of Micronesia and Palau. Under this agreement, the three countries would be free, but would also stand as associated states to the US. This means that the US will serve as the protectorate and that the Marshall Islands would have no regular military force or any sort of responsibility for the country's defense during wartime. The country created the Marshall Islands Police Force to carry out common police duties within the country. So who's the protector? Since the Marshall Islands are considered to be an associated state to the US is fully responsible for the country's defense and security. If the islands were ever attacked, the US would provide the necessary military support to assist in the war. Number 3. Liechtenstein. Like a few other countries on this list, Liechtenstein is a country that decided to completely abolish its standing army. Liechtenstein got rid of its army in 1868 after the Austro-Prussian War because it was said to be too expensive for the country to afford. After the country was freed from the German Confederation, it was obligated to maintain its own army, but the funding just wasn't available. However, to keep peace within the country, there is a police force known as the Principality of Liechtenstein National Police. So who's the protector? There is no set country that would have to defend Liechtenstein in the event of a war or some other sort of attack. It is said that the country is allowed to rally up an army in the case of a war, but this army would probably be futile and help from Switzerland might just come. There have been talks of Switzerland being responsible for Liechtenstein's defense, but neither country have proven or denied this claim. Number 2. Nauru. Nauru, known as the smallest island country in the world at just 8.1 square miles, is definitely unique in many ways, though like plenty of others on this list, it has no standing army or any other type of military force. The country, possibly due to its size, doesn't even have a capital. Though extremely small, the country does have a Nauru police force that is utilized to ensure that the country is able to maintain stability. Located in a group of thousands of small islands called Micronesia, the country is heavily relied upon for its readily accessible phosphate. Today, the country keeps close contact with nearby Australia and other Micronesia islands. So who's the protector? It is said that through an informal agreement made between Nauru and Australia, that Australia would supply militaristic needs or basic country defense. In fact, in December 1940, when Germany attacked Nauru, the Australian Navy was called upon to defend the country. Number 1. Vatican City. Named the smallest country in the world, Vatican City, unsurprisingly, is a country that does not have a de jure military. However, this hasn't always been the case. In the past, there were numerous militaristic groups that were created to protect the country and, most importantly, the Pope. Notably, the Noble Guard and the Palatine Guard did exist, but Pope Paul VI abolished both groups in 1970. Today, Vatican City's best example of a militaristic force would be the Pontifical Swiss Guard. This group is meant to protect the Pope as well as the Palace of the Vatican. There is also the Gendarmerie Corps, but this group is considered to be a civilian force rather than military. They are also responsible for keeping public order, traffic control, border control, and investigating criminal activity. So who's the protector? Well, since Vatican City is located in Rome, Italy is fully responsible for protecting the tiny country within its own country's capital. Italy has an organized armed force of about 186,000 men and women, with 109,000 personnel in the army and 43,000 in the navy. The country also has an active air force. So I really hope you found that video interesting. If you did, please do hit that thumbs up button below. Don't forget to subscribe. Brand new videos every day of the week. For more from me, why not check out my podcast? It's called The BrainFood Show. If you search BrainFood, one word, wherever you get your podcasts, you will find it. If you like this sort of video, that's a little more of a casual format, so hope you find it interesting. And as always, thank you for watching.